participants. Before I start, please may I know if I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Thank you, ma'am. Math is present in our day-to-day life and is being used even when people don't realize they're using mathematical reasoning. Almost all areas of human activity make more and more use of mathematics. They use all branches of mathematics, not just traditional applied mathematics. Mathematical activity like research, application, education, exposition has changed a lot in the last few years. Some of these changes, like the use of computers, are very perceptible and they are being applied in mathematical education broadly. The changes are phenomenal and all the recent trends in mathematics are worth knowing. But you don't have to search anywhere to learn about it because you are already in the right place. Yes, SNS College of Technology is extremely happy to welcome you all for the 5-day International Faculty Development Program on recent trends in mathematics organized by Department of Mathematics. This program is arranged to enrich the knowledge of faculties through interaction with eminent personalities from academics and industries. We assure you that the knowledge sharing will improve the teaching learning process to the students and benefit the society. SNS College of Technology has never failed its duty in being a warm welcomer. My now request our beloved Mrs. Rajeshwari, Assistant Professor, Department of Mathematics, to deliver the welcome address.
Happy morning to all. On behalf of SNS College of Technology, Department of Mathematics, I welcome everyone to today's session of Faculty Development Program on recent trends in applied mathematics. I am glad to see you all here and I have got high hopes for what we can achieve while we are here. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to our Dean Sir, Dr. A. Vishwanathan, for his invaluable help and constant support for the smooth conduction for this FDP. Last but not least, my sincere thanks to our SNS institution for continuously motivating us. I take immense pleasure in welcoming our two resource persons. The first session is going to handle by Dr. T. Azhar, Head in Charge, Director, Department of Mathematics, Madurai Kamaraj University, Evening College, Dindikal. And the second session is going to handle by Amit Vijay Kumar, Emeritus Professor, Department of Mathematics, Cochin University of Science and Technology, Cochin. Once again, I welcome you all for this session. Hope you all will have a great time.
Thank you, ma'am. Mathematics may not teach us how to add love or minus hate, but it gives us every reason to hope that every problem has a solution. And mathematics professors are the ones who teach us that and gives us that hope. And one such amazing person is Dr. T. Azhar sir. Dr. T. Azhar is currently working as assistant professor and head in Department of Mathematics at Madurai Kamaraj University, Tamil Nadu. He has 11 years of teaching and research experience. He has completed his research on the topic interlink between commutative rings and graphs and is currently working on the project titled Graphs Constructed from Additive Operator of Commutative Rings. He is awarded with several accolades. He has won gold medal for first rank in MSc Mathematics and he has also secured university second rank in MPhil. He's been awarded a travel grant from DST to attend the 4th International Conference in Mathematical Sciences 2012 held at United Arab Emirates University. He has received 1,50,000 from ASERB and rupees 60,000 from CSR and 1 lakh from MKU to conduct an international conference during January. He is a member in 20 plus academic and administrative bodies. He has also guided 21 MPhil students and 2 PhD students and is now currently guiding 4 PhD students. He has organized several international conferences and has also been invited to talk in the 3rd and the 4th International Conference on Mathematics and Statistics held at American University, Sharjah. He has also delivered series of lectures on modeling with graph theory at Palestine Technical University, Karud, Palestine. It does not stop there. He has been invited to talk in 50 plus colleges around the world and has published 21 international journals. He is a member of American Mathematical Society and Academy of Discrete Mathematics and Application. With no further delay, SNS College takes great pride in inviting such an eminent personality to talk today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for the organizers of SNS College for their nice invitations. Thank you for the nice welcome, madam. So actually, that someone is presenting the things. Can you ask her to stop the things? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Shall I go ahead? If there is some instruction, please interrupt me and let me know the things. Okay, fine. Okay, very good morning to all of you. For this session, I am going to discuss about graphs which are all constructed from an algebraic structures. So this is nothing but a part of algebraic graph theory. So algebraic graph theory, there are actually two parts in algebraic graph theory. The first one is dealing with the adjacency matrix or something like automorphism group associated with the graphs. Actually, these are the concepts. They are coming from a graph structures. Okay. So take a graph. You can able to convert these graph into the properties of algebra or like adjacency matrix. These are all very familiar concepts. Adjacency matrix, automorphism group, which has been associated to the graphs. Okay. So this is one type. That means we are coming from a graph theory to a algebraic structures. So for these studies, you must need to know something about linear algebra for adjacency matrix and group representation theories and group theories for automorphism groups. Okay. So what's the second part? Today I am going to discuss about the second part. What is second part? Second part is a graph that can be constructed from an algebraic structures. Okay. For example, we can going to define a graph from an algebraic structure. Okay, so and we are going to discuss about these properties, how algebra and graph theory properties of graphs and the properties of algebra will interplay between these two. Okay, so we are going to discuss such things. So especially to the idea of constructing a graph from an algebraic structure was first organized by Gailey in the year 1878. You are all very much familiar with the Gailey. You know that Gailey theorem. Actually, he is a famous group theorist. He working on algebra, especially on the group theory. But he wants to represent his elements of the group in a way that he wants to represent it in some manner. Okay. For that reason, he used graph theory for his groups. Okay. So this is the first step towards graph that can be constructed from some algebraic structure, which was started in the year 1878 by Arthur Cayley. And then actually there are many graphs that can be constructed from some algebraic structures. I would like to mention some of the standard graphs. The first very standard graph is Gailey graph from group. This is nothing but the one given by the Gailey. Later on it is named as a Gailey graph. Therefore the first one is Gailey graph from groups, non-commutating graph of groups, power graph of finite groups, zero divisor graph. So first of all, these first three concepts are the graph that can be constructed from some group structure. Now move on to, there are graphs that can be constructed from ring structures also. The first one and very famous one is zero divisor graph of a ring, the total graph of a ring, unit graph of a ring, and co-maximal graph of a ring. Actually these are, and annihilating graph, ideal graph of a ring. Okay. Actually these five are one of the standard graphs that can be constructed from a ring structure. So, and one more I would like to tell you that horizon graph over a module. This is the graph constructed from a module structure. Actually, there are graphs that can be constructed from vector spaces, lattices, posets, semi-group, near rings, and so on. Okay. Therefore, we have graphs from various algebraic structures. So very simple thing, we are going to construct a graph from my algebraic structure, and we are going to discuss about the interplay between these two, especially algebra and graph theory, how the properties of algebra play a role in properties of graph theory and vice versa. Okay, this is what we are going to discuss in the next 40-30 minutes. Okay, learn with me. So associating graph to a ring structure, as I already told you that associating a graph to a group structure was introduced by Arthur Cayley in the year 1878, but for a ring structure, it is by Ivan Beck actually. It is by Ivan Beck in the year, supposed to be, it is 1988. In the year 1988, Ivan introduced the graph about the ring structure. Okay. So for this topic, I am just going to discuss about the graph that can be constructed out of the ring structure, since we have only about 30 to 35 minutes. So I'm just going to concentrate on only one graph, that is called zero divisor graph. Zero divisor graph is very famous graph. Therefore, I am going to concentrate only about the zero divisor graph of a ring. Okay, so this is the graph that can be constructed from a ring structure. So before that, I just need the basic notations. So since I told you that it is a graph constructed from a ring structure, so I am going with the commutative ring. Throughout this presentation, I am only considering a commutative ring. So let R plus dot is a commutative ring with the first operation plus and the second operation dot. There are two identities, as you may know that first operation identity I used to denote it as 0. The second operation identity, usually we call it as a multiplicative identity, that is 1. And the element generated by some x, we have going to denote it this by ideal generated by x. Okay, for this notation. So these are the basic notation I just wanted to know for this section. And some basic concepts, I just need 1 or 3 or 4 basic concepts from algebra, very simple concepts and very basic concepts. So let R be a commutative ring. Subset I of R is said to be ideal of R. So what is ideal? The ideal is nothing but it has to be satisfies 2 conditions. The first condition is with respect to the first operation, the subset should be a subgroup of R plus. So with respect to the first operation, it must be a subgroup. Since R plus is an abelian group, therefore this must be an abelian group. But instead of having 5 properties of the abelian group, as we know that a subset is said to be a subgroup, it should satisfy only 2 conditions. The very first theorem in subgroup, it says that if A and B are the element of the subset, for suppose H, then AB inverse belongs to H, whenever H is a subgroup of G. Okay, so the same concept is told here also. That means this property entailing actually 2 properties. One is additive closure and additive inverse. So okay, therefore the first property is a subgroup of R plus, and the second property, take an element from this subset and take an element from the entire ring, wherever from the ring, then the product should be an element of this subset. Okay, take an element from the subset A, take any element from the ring R, and then use the second operation. The resulting element should be the part of this subset. Okay, so if your subset satisfies these 2 conditions, then we used to call it as an ideal. Since we are in the commutative ring, we don't mind about AR or RA. Okay, so please keep in mind in that. So next definition, units. So I just want one more definition, unit. An element x in R is said to be unit if there exists another non-zero, another element y in R such that x dot y equal to 1. 1 is nothing but the multiplicative identity. Therefore, what it means that the element, the unit element is nothing but those elements who have the inverse. Okay, so those elements who have the inverse is called the unit element. Don't confuse this unit and unity. Unity is sometimes used to representation for the identity of the ring, but unit is nothing but the element those who have the multiplicative inverse. Okay, so the collection of all units in R, we are going to denote it as U of R. Okay, so U of R is collection of all units. And second one, what about the second one? Zero divisor. An element x in R is said to be zero divisor if there exists another non-zero element y in R such a way that x dot y equal to 0. What it means? We have to use the second operation, and the resulting element must be an identity of the first operation. Okay, so which is called the zero divisor. The set of all zero divisor we are used to denote it as Z of R. And one more definition, and the last definition I needed for algebra is nothing but a regular element. A non-zero element x in R is to be regular if x is not a zero divisor of R. Very simple. Those elements which are not zero divisor is called a regular element. we used to denote it this as REG of R. So RG of R is nothing but R set minus Z of R. So don't confuse, again, don't confuse this regular element with our own von Neumann regular. Von Neumann regular is something different from this regular. This regular is very simple element which is R not zero divisor is called a regular element. So I just want to use the board for a while. Okay, so hope this board is visible to all of you. Organizers, is this board is visible?
No, sir.
Board is not visible?
No, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Now it is visible? Fine. Okay. So take a ring R. As I said here, the ring can be parted into two sets. One side we have Z of R, another side is regular R. Because the element which are not a zero divisor is called regular of R. So Z of R and regular of R. What I am going to prove here is this is subset of this one. What is nothing but the set of all units. It is very simple. Set of all unit must be a subset of regular of R, which means any element in unit which is not always not a zero divisor. Very simple. Suppose I have a zero divisor, for example, Z is an element of the zero divisor. Then what should we have? Which means place the X is some more element, non-zero element Y in R such that X dot Y equal to 0. Suppose I have to prove this Z is not a unit element. Suppose I am assuming in a contradiction way that suppose this Z is a unit element, then what it happens, I can which means for this Z we have a inverse. So I used to inverse to pre-multiply the things, and using the associative law, I got this. The right hand side is always 0. This is an identity. So what I have, Y is 0. But what I say that Y is a non-zero element. Therefore, what we have is this is actually a contradiction to Y not equal to 0. Therefore, an element is unit, then it should not be a zero divisor. So this is the basic concept. There is no relation between the zero divisor element and the unit elements. Okay. So this is for infinite ring. Now I move on to the finite ring. So I just take the finite rings. So suppose this is my R is finite. Okay. Suppose this R is finite ring. What I have? Then this must be exactly the two sets. Okay. Either zero divisor or units, which means there is no regular element which is not a unit element. Okay. In the case of finite, why? If you want the proof of this proof is nothing but we know the very standard theorem which says that every finite commutative ring, every finite integral domain is a field. Every finite integral domain is a field. The theorem is the proof of the same theorem is a proof for this also. So instead of integral domain, you just remove all the Z of R's, and then using the same proof for this one, the element which are not zero divisor, you get each element has a multiplicative inverse. Therefore, in case of finite, the elements are either zero divisor or a unit. In case of infinite ring, the elements are either zero divisor or regular, in which regular should always contains the unit elements also. Okay. So this is the basic concepts I needed from ring theory. So with this basic one, I just move on to my presentation for the further process. Madam, is the presentation is visible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So we will move on to the next one. I already told you for this session I am only going to concentrate about the zero divisor graph of a commutative ring. So what is the zero divisor graph? So graph theory, some of you are familiar with the graph theory. If some of them is not familiar with graph theory, I just want to tell you that graph theory is very simple. It is going to discuss about the two sets. For the basic concepts, it is going to deal with the two sets. One set is a vertex set and another one is a edge set. Okay. So to define a graph, I must need a vertex set. Also, I must need an edge set. Okay. So the idea of associating a graph with the zero divisor graph, as I already told you, it was introduced by Ivan Beck in the year 1988. Actually, he is also a ring theorist. He also wants to represent the elements of the ring in a way that, so for his representation only, he goes for the graph theory. this is how he introduced the things. And then actually what actually he did is the definition for his own graph. We used to call it as a Ivan Beck graph. The Beck graph is nothing but, so he defined a graph with all the elements of the ring as a vertex set. Okay, so he taking all the elements of the vertices as the vertex set, and two distinct vertices x and y are adjacent, provided that x dot y equal to 0. This is nothing but the zero divisor condition. So therefore, as I told you, there are two sets we need to define a graph vertex set. So here the vertex set is nothing but the elements of the ring. And I need edge set also. What is the edge set? The edge set is nothing but the condition of a zero divisor. So this is how he introduced a graph to represent his own ring theory concepts. Okay. So actually there is a flow in this definition which was identified by D.F. Anderson and P.S. Livingston in the year 1999. They are from US. They actually modified the definition of the Ivan Beck's. Okay. Actually, they only given the name as the zero divisor graph. So the present zero divisor graph with its definition is the zero divisor graph. We usually denote it is as gamma of R as the simple graph. So simple graph means there is no loop, no direction, no multiple edges. Okay. So simple graph whose vertex set is set of all non-zero zero divisors of R. Okay. Set of all non-zero zero divisors of R, and such that two distinct vertices x comma y belongs to this vertex set are adjacent if x y equal to 0. So now you can see what's the difference between these two definitions. The first definition is given by Ivan Beck. You see the edge condition. Edge condition is same, x y equal to 0. Here also x y equal to 0. But in terms of vertex set, you take all the elements of the ring as the vertices, whereas D.F. Anderson taking as only the non-zero zero divisors as the vertex. This is the simple thing they have modified from Ivan Beck. Why they are modifying? What's the importance of this? I will give you with an example. Why? What's the difference between the Ivan Beck graph and the current graph zero divisor graph? Okay, let us take a simple ring. So I hope all of you are very much familiar with this one, C6 with the addition modulo 6 and multiplication modulo 6. Nothing but C6 has the element 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the addition modulo 6 means nothing but add. Suppose 3 plus 4 is usually 7. So which means you have to divide 7 by 6. The remainder is 1. Therefore 3 addition modulo 6 plus 4 gives you 1. Similarly for multiplication modulo also. For example, 2 into 3 gives you 6. 6 divided by 6, the remainder is 0. Therefore 2 into multiplication modulo 6 over 3 gives you 0. Okay. This is how the addition and multiplication in this ring. Okay. So what's the zero divisor elements here? Because I need zero divisor elements to define my graphs. So 0, trivial zero divisor. So I take 0 as my trivial zero divisor, and 2, 3, 4. These are the 3 non-zero zero divisors. How? 2 into 3 gives you 0, as I already told you. Therefore 2 and 3 are the elements of the zero divisors. What about 4? 3 into 4. Take 3 into 4, which gives you 12. 12 means the remainder the remainder of multiplication modulo 6 gives you 0. Okay. Therefore 3 into 4 is also gives you this 0. Therefore 2, 3, 4 are the zero divisor elements. Which are the left out? The left out elements are 1 and 5. You can try this. This 1 and 5 never gives you 0 with multiplication of any element in C6. Okay. Therefore these are the 4 elements in the zero divisor. The element which are not here is 1 and 5. Okay. Keep these things in mind. Now we are going to draw both the graphs. First one is Ivan Beck, second one is D.F. Anderson graph. Here is the both graph. I'm going to explain how it is. So for example, what's the definition of Ivan Beck? Ivan Beck taking all the elements of the ring as the vertices. So edge condition is almost same, but whereas the vertex condition is he take all the elements of the ring as a vertices. So what are the elements of the ring? Here C6, therefore 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, these are the elements of this ring. So I take all the elements of the ring as the vertices. So what's the edge condition? X and y are adjacent. Distinct x and y are adjacent, provided that x dot y equal to 0. So what happened? 0, 0 dot anything is 0. We know that. Therefore 0 dot 1 is 0, 0 dot 5 is 0, 0 dot 2 is 0. So 0 dot anything is 0. Therefore 0 is adjacent to all the remaining other vertices. So what about 1? 1.0 is only 0, 1.5 is not 0, 1.2 is not 0, 1.3 is not 0, therefore there is no edge for 1 except 0. And for 2.0 we know that 2 into 3, as I already told you, 2 into 3 gives you 0, therefore 2 into 3 is adjacent. 2 into 4 gives you actually 2 here in this multiplication modulo 6 gives you 2, therefore there is no edge between 2 and 4. Similarly for 3, 3 into 4 is 0, therefore there is edge, whereas 3 into 5 gives you 15 divided by 6, the remainder is actually 3, therefore there is no edge between these two. Okay, therefore this is the graph of Ivan Beck. Actually, here the points to note that what is the flow here, actually, or otherwise what's the problem here with the graph theory. To study the properties of Ivan Beck using the graph properties have some leg. What's the leg is here actually. The legs are here is nothing but we clearly know that 0 is adjacent to all the remaining other vertices. Why 0 dot anything, any element gives 0. Therefore, 0 must be adjacent to all the elements of the ring except 0. Okay, so this is the first law. And next one, I already told you what are the element which is not here, 1 and 5. Note that which means 1 and 5 is not a 0 divisor, which means 1 dot anything never give you 0, 1 dot non-zero element. Similarly, 5 dot any non-zero element never give you 0. Therefore, this 1 and 5 must be adjacent with only 0. This is the flaw they are finding. Why this is flaw actually in terms of graph theory? Suppose I give you, some of you may familiar with the domination concepts. What is domination? Take an element. So for this graph, what is the domination number? You can always say this, what is the domination number? 1. Because 0 is adjacent to all other vertices. Therefore, the domination must be 1. So there is not much hope to study this graph as a graph theoretical properties. So D.F. Anderson and Livingston identified this flaw and then they modified this as a with the same edge condition, whereas the vertex is nothing but the subset of the R, which is nothing but set of non-zero zero divisors of R. So here what's a set of non-zero zero divisors of R? 2, 3, 4. So 2, 3, 4 are the edge sets. Sorry, vertex set. Then what's the edge? Nothing but 2 into 3 is 0, 3 into 4 is 0, 2 into 4 never gives you 0. Therefore, this is nothing but the subgraph induced by the set of non-zero zero divisors of this Ivan Beck graph. This graph is called zero divisor graph. After this small modification, now you can Google it as a zero divisor graph. You can find at least 600, 700 papers in a very standard paper itself, even some prestigious journals also. Okay, therefore, a small modification will lead to a very huge study. Okay, I will give you some more examples for Z4, Z2 of X by ideal generated by these are the rings. For these rings, the zero divisor graph is nothing but a singleton vertex, which means that there are these two are a non-isomorphic rings. So for non-isomorphic rings, we may have a same graph. Okay, so there are 3 non-isomorphic rings for which the zero divisor graph is nothing but K2. You can see what about K3. So for 3 vertices, how many connected graphs are there with 3 vertices? Actually, there are 2 graphs with order 3 as a connected graph. Okay, these are the 2 graphs. You don't have any other graphs as a connected graph with order 3. Therefore, these are the 2 graphs with the number of vertices 3. Both the graphs can be realized as a zero divisor graph of some ring. For example, already we see that zero divisor graph of C6, also C8, also this is the same. Again, for C2 of X by ideal generated by X squared, X by Y squared gives you the zero divisor graph of K3. Okay, so therefore, next now we move on to order 4. Actually, for 1, this is the only graph that can be realized as a zero divisor graph. For 2 vertices, the only connected graph is K2. That is also be the zero divisor graph of some rings. For 3 vertices, there are 2 connected graphs. Both of them can be realized as the zero divisor graph of some rings. Now the question is for 4. Actually, how many 4 elements graph are there? Order 4. How many connected graph of order 4 is there? You can verify that there are actually 6 graphs. Okay, there are 6 connected graphs with the number of vertices as 4. Out of these 6 graphs, there are 3 graphs can be realized as the zero divisor graph. These are those 3 graphs. Okay, K4. This is nothing but C4. This is nothing but K1, 3. Okay, these are the 3 graphs of order 4 that can be realized as the zero divisor graph of some corresponding rings. Okay. Now the question is about what happened to the remaining 3 What happened to the remaining 3? Actually, there are remaining 3 connected graphs. I already told you, which are all not treated as a zero, cannot be realized as the zero divisor graph of any ring. After which I am going to discuss about P4, path on 4 vertex. I take path on 4 vertex. Clearly, it is a 4 vertex graph, a connected graph. What I am going to prove is this P4 cannot be realized as the zero divisor graph of any commutative ring. How I am going to prove this? Very simple proof. Therefore, I am going to prove the things. Let P4 be the graph with vertex set A, B, C, D. Why? My vertex set has, my graph P4 has 4 vertex, which means the set of, if suppose it should be a zero divisor graph, then the vertex set of the zero divisor graph means it is nothing but the set of non-zero zero divisors. So which means the set of non-zero zero divisor has exactly 4 elements. Therefore, I take it as A, B, C, D. Okay. Since it is P4, I take it as A is adjacent to B, B is adjacent to C, C is adjacent to D, and there is no other edges between. Okay, there is no other edges. So since I take, I'm going to assume in a contradiction way that suppose there must be a ring exist with the corresponding Z of R is because these are the non-zero zero divisors. So Z of R is nothing but including 0, 0, A, B, C, D, and A, B are adjacent, therefore A, B 0, B, C adjacent, B, C 0, C, D adjacent, therefore C, D 0. There is no other edge between these 4 vertices, therefore no other product give you 0. Okay. So I am assuming in a contradiction way. Let's see what's the contradiction I am going to arrive here. So I take A plus C. What is A plus C? I am going to prove this. A plus C is always element of the zero divisor. How I am going to prove? I am going to prove this with A plus C. I am going to multiply this with B. What you get? AB, CB. AB is also 0. CB and BC are same because we are in a commutative ring. Therefore, CB is also 0. Therefore, this gives you 0 element. Okay. Therefore, this AC must be an element of the zero divisor. That means this AC should be one among these 5 elements. Okay. This AC must be one among these 5. Okay. Okay. So what's like, suppose I treat this AC is an element of B. I am starting with this one. Suppose this AC is an element of B. Is the only possible. I'm going to prove this. This AC is only B. It never becomes 0 or A or C or D. This is what I'm going to prove here. So suppose I am taking that AC is 0. This 0. What happens? Suppose this AC is 0. Then I multiply with D. I get AD, CD. Again, right hand side is 0. Since C and D are 0, or the C and CD is 0. Therefore, this 0. Therefore, what I have AD is 0, which means there must be an edge between A and D. But in P4, I don't have any edge between A and D. This is the contradiction. A plus C is never give you 0. Similarly, A plus C never give you D also. This also, A plus C never give you D also. Why? If so, then I multiply with B. Then AB plus CB gives you BD. Again, AB is 0 here. CB is 0, 0. Therefore, what we have? BD is 0. But there is no edge between BD. Again, a contradiction. Therefore, this AC is never 0. This AC is never D. Similarly, this AC is never A also. So why? Suppose A plus C is A, then you can cancel both the A, you get C equal to 0. But C is a non-zero element here. Similarly, A plus is never also C also. You can cancel both the C, you get A equal to 0, but A is not a 0. Therefore, this A plus C never the element of 0 or A or C or D. Therefore, the only possibility is this B1. Therefore, A plus C is B. Similarly, I don't want to prove this. Similarly, you can say the similar technique will lead to B plus D is C. Okay, so this B plus D is give you C. So what is happened? I have B plus A plus C equal to B. Therefore, I can write B as A plus C. And instead of C, I'm going to replace this one. I get instead of C, I replace B plus D. Now cancellation law is valid for addition. So I cancel these two, A and C. What I get? AD equal to 0, which means D is nothing but minus A. Therefore, here D is nothing but minus A. Now, what is BD? BD is nothing but instead of D, I have minus A here. Therefore, I am applying D as minus A, B into minus A, minus BA. BA is also 0. Therefore, this gives you 0, which means again it says that B and D are adjacent, but actually in my graph, B and D is not adjacent. Therefore, contradiction arrives in all the cases. Therefore, P4 is never realized as the zero divisor graph. Therefore, what we have, there are several graphs can be realized as the zero divisor graph of some rings. There are several graphs that cannot be realized as the zero divisor graph of any rings. Okay. So, for example, there are complete bipartite graph on 7 vertices. These are the complete bipartite graph that can be realized as the zero divisor graph. Actually, these are the zero divisor graph of vertex 5 here, vertex 6 here. These are the zero divisor graph of 7 vertices. So again, zero divisor graph of some 7 vertices, corresponding rings are given here. Okay, so this is how the theory is developing. Actually, this results actually very nice one. That's why I like to give it the proof of this. Why we are interested in such type of graphs. One of the very famous theorem, which says that. So we know that a ring is any set. Take any set. If a set is finite, then the subset is always finite. We know this concept. So similarly, if R is finite, then the subset zero divisor set is always finite. Zero divisor graph of ring. Okay, take R. R is finite. Therefore, Z of R, zero divisor, is also be finite. Now my question is, suppose R is infinite, then can we say that Z of R is also infinite in case of non-integral domain? We know that in case of integral domain, the zero divisor is only 0, therefore it is finite, but R can be infinite. Okay, but I removing the integral domain part, which means we must have at least one non-zero element. So if R is infinite, then can we say that the subset is also infinite? No, we cannot able to say. Okay, but Professor Ganesan proved this one for a commutative ring. What he proved is, take a commutative ring R. If the R is infinite, then I can say that this subset is also infinite. This was proved by Professor Ganesan in the year 1976, I think so, which is a paper in Mathanam. The single paper, this is the single result in the paper. It runs over about 17 pages of the paper. Okay, so 17-page proof, but this proof, the same theorem, I am going to prove using the graph theory with a 4 to 5 step. Okay, a big theorem, a very standard theorem in ring theory. Actually, it is proved for commutative ring. Then it is also proved for non-commutative ring, but still it is open. The problem is open more than 50 years for ring theory, which says that if a ring is finite for non-associative rings, okay, because it is proved for commutative and non-commutative. So still the conjecture is still open, which says that the conjecture is nothing but for non-associative rings. Sorry, for associative rings, which is not commutative ring or non-commutative ring, for which the ring is infinite, means the subset is also infinite. Okay, this is an open problem, but we are going to the same proof of commutative ring. Instead of 14 pages, I am going to prove in 4 lines using graph theory. This is what the theory is very interesting. Let R be a commutative ring, then this is nothing but the zero divisor graph. Zero divisor graph is finite, which means indirectly saying that the subset Z of R is finite if and only if either R is finite or an integral domain. So we know that for integral domain, the only zero divisor is the singleton 0 only. So we removing this integral domain part. If we removing the integral domain part, then the subset Z of R is finite if and only if R is finite. Okay, so R is finite implies Z of R is finite is very simple, but the other version is also be true for commutative ring. So we are going to prove this very famous standard theorem in ring theory with the very 4 to 5 steps of the proof, which says that support that gamma of R is finite and non-empty. So non-empty means it is not integral domain finite. So I am assuming this one. So what I am going to prove this R is finite. So what I am going to prove is, suppose subset is finite, then I am going to prove that superset is also finite. So how I am going to prove? Here I already showed this is non-empty, so it must have some element. So I take that element as xy belongs to R, that xy equal to 0. So what it means, I take I as annihilator of x. Annihilator is nothing but those element which gives a product of with x gives you 0. Okay, zero divisor means take an element with any non-zero element give you 0, whereas annihilator of x means the elements which are commutating with x and operating with x give you 0. Okay, those element is called annihilator. This is always an ideal, therefore I take this as an ideal. Similarly, where this is always a subset of Z of R. Okay, since Z of R is finite, here I noted that Z of R is finite, which is subset of Z of R. Therefore, this should be finite. So I should be finite. What I am having, since this is an ideal, my second properties of ideal says that take any element from the ideal and take any element from the ring, which the product gives you this element of the ideal. So for example, I take any element of the R. Here, Y is an element of annihilator of X. Why? Because Y dot X is 0. Therefore, Y must be always an element of annihilator of X, which means Y is an element of I. Therefore, Y is an element of I. R is an element of anywhere in the ring. Then this product should give you an element of I. This is by the properties of ideal. So what here is the point to be noted. Now I can prove this R is finite. How I am going to prove this R is finite? Because take R. Suppose I am going to assuming again a conduction way that suppose this R is infinite. I am going to take as this R is infinite. Then what we have? There are infinite number of elements in R. Take this as a domain. Then what is my go domain? I am going to apply Y. Okay, because any element in R with the product with Y gives you an element of I, but this I is finite. So take R as a domain, I as a codomain. What's the function? Function is nothing but the operation Y. Okay, for each element from the domain R, I am going to apply Y. I will give you an element in I, but I is finite. This R is infinite, which means what it means? I am going to apply a single element for all those things. That means there must be infinite set in the domain. The infinite set gives you a single element. Okay, if it is not there, then for each finite set, if your different finite element is there, means union of all finite give you finite. Then the ring is finite, but not the case. My ring is infinite. So if I am assuming that R is infinite, so if I am assuming that R is infinite, then there must be a set of element in the R which with the operation with Y gives you a single element in I. I take that single element as a small I. Okay, I take this single element as small I. Small I is an element of capital I, such that set of all R in R such that R of Y equal to Y, I is infinite. So I take this set as J. This J must be infinite. Now I almost done. Since this J is infinite, I am going to take two elements from this J. I take R and S. I am going to take two elements R and S from this ring, especially from this J. Then what do we have? Ry equal to I, Sy is also I. Okay, therefore Ry is I, Sy is also I. Therefore R minus S into Y gives you 0. Okay, if you separate both of things, I minus I give you 0. Left hand side R minus S into Y. What we have? R minus S into Y is 0. How many R minus S is there? Since this J is infinite, therefore how many R minus S I have? Infinite number of R minus S I have. But this infinite number of R minus S product with Y give you 0 means this this type of R minus X is an element of annihilator of Y, which gives you annihilator of Y is infinite. Again, I told you any annihilator is a subset of Z of R. Annihilator of Y is also a subset of Z of R. But what I am assuming that Z of R is finite, a contradiction to this one. Very simple of 5 to 6 steps will prove the things, but this was originally proved by Professor Ganesan, and then a shorter proof using this one was given by Anderson. Okay? So this is what the theory developing. So I think I am almost done with the time. Therefore, actually you can go through Google, you can search zero divisor graph ring, you can have so many publications. Actually, this zero divisor graph can be studied for non-commutative rings, near rings, semi-groups, modules, lattice, cosets, and so on. Still the theory is going on. Therefore, this zero divisor graph has a strong potential in having research till now from the year 1999 to still. Okay. So I don't want to go with this total graphs. It is already time. This is again another graph constructed out of ring structures. So these are my references. So you just remove the product of total graph. This is a zero divisor graph which was introduced in year 1999 by D.F. Anderson and Livingston, and then there are one of our recent work in okay, so one of our work which has been published in Soft Computing about 1 or 2 months before on zero divisor graph. This is also a classification of zero divisor graph. So this is for total graph just maintain. So this is for again a total graph. This is for total graph. Okay. This is for again a 0 divisor graph. Thank you so much. Now, if you have any questions, I am ready to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Dear participants, if you have any queries, please go ahead and put up in the chat box.
Sir,
Madam, if you find any questions, please let me know.
Sure, sir.
sir, I'm Uma, doing research under the guidance of Dr. Manilal K, Department of Mathematics, University College, Trivandrum. Sir, can you suggest some topics for reading references for related to power graphs?
Power graph of a group.
Yes.
Power graph is, I think you may know that it is introduced by Cameron, I think so.
Cameron. There
Yeah,
are
Cameron.
2 papers. I have read those 2 papers. Any more
Yeah.
references or reading suggested by you?
I'm not much familiar with power graph of a group. Actually, there are 2 types of definition I come across with the power graph. One is given by Cameron. Another one is again by Professor Kamal Chelvam, I think so. They are defining using the subgroups, and the same definition is also given by Cameron, I think so.
Okay.
It's a different one.
Same thing, almost same.
Okay. Then if I find some references, I will let you know. You can email me. If some of you wants my email, I will type it here in the chat box. You email me. If I find any interesting papers, I will let you know.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other participant?
Yeah. Now I typed my email ID in the chat box. So those who really wants my email ID, please have it.
Sir, we've got one question.
Yeah.
Senthil Kumar Thangavelu sir has asked, how does the graph theory help in artificial neural networks?
Graph theory in artificial neural networks. I'm not much aware of these concepts, sir, but anyhow, for my part, from algebraic graph theory, there are these types of ring structures will help to have the neural structures, especially network theory. Okay, networks. I can suggest a paper in applied mathematics letter by Professor Chelvam and Dr. Muttarasu. The title of the paper is deal with Gailey graph using the network theory. So you may go through that paper. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Nivedita asked, are you guiding PhD students now?
No, I'm not getting your question, madam. Can you please repeat it?
Nivedita ma'am has asked, are you guiding PhD students now?
Yeah, actually, Professor Vijay Kumar Ambat also wanted to answer this one. So Professor will, in the next section, he will answer you. Probably. He will give us a better idea about this type of neural graphs. Okay, madam. Now, what's the question, madam, please?
Sir, Nivedita ma'am has asked, are you guiding PhD students now?
Yes, I am guiding 3 students now.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Any other questions, participants?
Sir, good morning. This is Mrs. Mohan from Nigeria. There is no query, sir. Just another note of thanks because for us, particularly in some remote part of the world, to get to hear from people like you is really difficult. So thanks again for another enlightening session. It would be a great help for teachers like us who are actually in the lower level of motivating students towards taking up subjects like this. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, madam. So I find one more questions from SBI 12. Can we focus on the dominations in zero divisor graph? Actually, the domination is already completed by Professor Redmond in the year 2014. It was a paper in communication algebra. So therefore, the domination part of the zero divisor graph is already over.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Any other participants? Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your precious time. Thank you for coming and joining us.